The today's topic is neonatal jaundice, that is a jaundice in a newborn. So the previous class we dealt with the problems in the LBW babies, low birth weight babies. Then we'll review some of the things in the LBW baby. I will tell you the few things and in a brief. And that brief, what is the definition of the hyperbilirubinemia and how to differentiate the physiological and pathological jaundice, and what are the problems of the hyperbilirubinemia, or what is the pathophysiology of the jaundice, and what are the danger complications of hyperbilirubinemia, and what are the mode of treatment, what modalities of the treatment for neonatal jaundice. These are the today's learning objectives. So we'll go through the definition of hyperbilirubinemia is nothing but the accumulation of excess accumulation of the bilirubin in the in a skin and eye, sclera, and mucous membrane and nails. So that is a yellow discoloration. When you appreciate the clinically means in a newborn, when the serum bilirubin is more than 5 milligrams, we can detect by blanching method of the skin. Whereas in adults, when the bilirubin level is more than 2 milligrams, we can appreciate the clinical jaundice in eyes, in sclera. When you examine the sclera in sunlight only, not artificial lights. So that is the difference between the neonatal jaundice and the adult jaundice. So there are the two fractions of the bilirubin. One is conjugated and another one is unconjugated. Unconjugated fraction is most important in the newborn. When it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it may damage the CNS, and the CNS areas are mainly involved is the basal ganglia, hippocampus, and nuclei of the auditory nuclei or cochlear nuclei, and the even cerebellum also. So that areas they are there, we will develop the kernicterus, and later they may land in cerebral palsy also. So this is the pictures. When you see this baby is having healthy pink and red, where you see here is a yellow. So, and what is the peculiarity of the jaundice? I'm audible or not? I'm audible. Hello. Hello, audible or not? The slides. The what are the peculiarities of the jaundice in a newborn? So newborn is entirely different when you compare to the adults. In the newborn, we can detect the jaundice by blanching method from above downwards, because the distribution of the jaundice will cephalocaudal, and you have to see the over the forehead and the tip of the nose and the face and chest and the abdomen and extremities, upper limb and lower limbs. What do you call the dermal Kramer dermal Jones? So later I will tell you. That is the one peculiarity. Second peculiarity is there is a physiological polycythemia will be there in the newborn, and that will contribute for the release of the bilirubin from the RBC. Another one is that the RBC lifespan is very short in the newborn, is 90 days instead of 120 days in adults. And the third one is the rate of production of the bilirubin is more in a newborn, like 6 to 8, 10 milligrams per kg, whereas in adults it is a 3 to 4 milligrams per kg. And the next contribution of this bilirubin, 85%, this is sorry, the 75, now 85% of the bilirubin is coming from the sensate RBC, and 15% from the ineffective erythropoiesis, that what you call the shunt bilirubin. Then the other contributing factors, peculiarities of the neonatal jaundice is the immaturity of the liver, neonatal liver. So the clinically we can detect when the bilirubin is more than 5 milligrams in newborn, more than 2 milligrams in adults. And when you see the bilirubin metabolism here, we can see the representation of this, the photo. Hemoglobin is degraded into globin and heme, and 1 gram of the hemoglobin will produce 34 milligrams of bilirubin. That is a contribution at least about the 85% of the bilirubin. The another 15% coming from the that heme protein, that what you call non-heme source like myoglobin, cytochrome, and peroxidase. These are contributing for the hyperbilirubinemia at least 15%. So that bilirubin will take up by in the blood by combined with the albumin, and later the uptake by the liver. This liver uptake by the Y acceptor will be there, lysandine, that what you call with the help of the glucuronide transferase enzyme, that bilirubin combined with the glucuronic acid and giving rise to the mono or diglucuronide products. And these products may go into the intestine, and these small intestine in the intestine with the help of the beta glucuronidase enzyme and bacteria will degrade the glucuronic acid glucuronide, and that will excrete in the stool like stercobilin, and in the urine urobilinogen. This is the simple mechanism of the bilirubin metabolism. This is another one. Anyway, same thing only. Then how to detect the jaundice in a newborn? What you call the Cramer-Dermal-Jones. When you see the face, it is roughly the bilirubin is 4 to 8 milligrams. When the chest is yellowish, that is around about the 5 to 12 milligrams, and the other extremities 8 to 16 milligrams. And when the palms and soles are involved, it should be more than 15 milligrams. This is the Cramer-Dermal-Jones. Then what are the complications of this bilirubin? Why do bother about the bilirubin? It may cause acute bilirubin encephalopathy or the chronic bilirubin encephalopathy. Acute bilirubin encephalopathy is nothing but there is a grading system is there. There is a Bayes score. Bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction, which can have the parameters like mental status and muscle tone and cry. This Bayes score is very, very important to decide the child is going into kernicterus or not. Early kernicterus we call it. And the early kernicterus, the clinically we can detect the high-pitched cry and opisthotonus, and neck retraction will be there, and lethargic. These are the signs we can detect the early kernicterus. And a chronic bilirubin encephalopathy we call is kernicterus. That is so the mode of the management is entirely different, that will deal next. And how to differentiate the physiological jaundice and pathological jaundice. And the physiological jaundice appears on the second or third day of the life, and the maximum it may go in, at the day of fourth or fifth day in a term, and seventh day in a preterm. And the bilirubin level will not cross 15 milligrams, and clinically we cannot detect after 14 days, and this may disappear without any treatment also, because the normally physiologically the term babies more than 60% of the newborn may have the physiological jaundice, and more than 60-80% the preterm. But you cannot ignore the physiological jaundice. We have to see clinical examination, any signs of early kernicterus is there or not, that we have to watch and observe, and take the bilirubin levels. So why does the jaundice will occur? The physiological jaundice is because of the increased production may be there, because of the physiological polycythemia, lifespan of the orbis is decreased, and the other thing is that the immaturity of the liver will be there, and the uptake of the bilirubin by the liver, it is defect will be there, or conjugation defect will be there because of the glucuronide transferase enzyme, which can act as a catalyst for combination of the bilirubin with the glucuronic acid, and there is the decreased excretion also, and there is a chances of increased enterohepatic circulation. These are the possible the mechanism for contributing to the physiological jaundice. Then what is the criteria for pathological jaundice? The criteria for pathological jaundice is nothing but the jaundice appears within 24 hours, and the bilirubin, if you take the bilirubin, increases the rate of bilirubin is more than 5 milligrams per day. That is the most important. And every 1 hour you have to examine the baby whether the baby is going into the kernicterus or not. That is the most important assessment of the clinical jaundice. Then next is the bilirubin is more than 15 milligrams, and the jaundice persists of the behind 14 days in a term baby, behind 3 weeks in a preterm, and if you see the color of the stools and color of the urine is very, very important. Stool color may be clay, or the white color of the urine may be there. Staining of the clothes or nappy will be there. These are the indication for to detect the pathological jaundice. And if you take the direct bilirubin, that is more than 2 milligrams per deciliter, or more than 10 to 15% of the total serum bilirubin. Among these, direct or indirect bilirubin is most important, which can cross the blood-brain barrier. Next, coming to the factors which can cause exaggerated physiological jaundice because of the prematurity, or because of the sequestrated blood in the cephalohematoma or intraventricular hemorrhage, or swallowed maternal blood, or delayed establishment of the pits will be there, low calorie intake, or delayed or ineffective passage of the meconium, or further their increase in the RBC mass will be there because of physiological jaundice, or that may be due to the cord delay in cord clamping or twin to twin transfusion, and these are all contributing for polycythemia, and it is commonly seen in infant of diabetic mother. That is, IDM is infant of diabetic mother. If the mother is having the diabetes, the baby will call is the infant of diabetic mother, and breast milk jaundice also is there. So later I will tell you the what is the breast milk jaundice, and these causes the what are the next causes of the first day appearance of the jaundice, mostly incompatibility like RH incompatibility, ABO incompatibility, or TORCH infections or malaria, urinary tract infection in the in newborn, and there is a bacterial infection also will be there, or G6PD or enzyme deficiency will be there in RBC, or hereditary spherocytosis. These are the causes of the pathological jaundice. And the appearing between this the 24 to 72 hours, we have to think of the physiological or septicemia or polycythemia or interventricular hemorrhage or increased enterohepatic circulation. And the after the jaundice appears after 72 hours of life, we have to think of the after exclusion of the common conditions, you have to think of the idiopathic. When you exclude common conditions like septicemia, hypothyroidism, or biliary atresia, or there is a chances of the IEM metabolic disorder, galactosemia will be there, and total parental nutrition. These are some of the causes we have to exclude and think of the idiopathic also. So these are the other causes. Then coming to the risk factors of the newborn jaundice, the risk factors, if you remember the mnemonic we made very simply for the students' purpose. And J, jaundice. J is jaundice within first 24 hours. And A is a sibling who has jaundice as a neonate, previous sibling. U is unrecognized hemolytic anemia, hemolytic jaundice. And then N is non-optimal sucking or nursing, and D is a deficiency of the G6PD enzyme, I is an infection, and C is a cephalohematoma or bruising and laceration, and which unconcealed the bleeding will be there, intraventricular hemorrhage also. E is the East Asian, is very common in East Asian and North Indians who settle in states. It is very commonly seen the newborn jaundice. So what are the treatable causes of the neonatal jaundice? You should know now. By this time you know the baby is having the jaundice, and jaundice will cause some problems like kernicterus, or that kernicterus is nothing but neurological damage to the brain of the newborn. If the child survives, it may land in the cerebral palsy. So you know that. So we have to think of the diagnosis when we can treat or not. So these we cannot find in OP guide. Everybody should note it down, all these conditions, because the OP guide or any other books, Meherban Singh, it is not mentioned in the even textbook of pediatrics Nelson. Nelson is a very big book. Treatable condition that is the most important is the septicemia and urinary tract infection, and surgical jaundice is nothing but extrahepatic biliary atresia or choledochal cyst or biliary duct anomalies will be there, or cholelithiasis, which is very commonly seen in hemolytic anemias in utero itself. And the structures, bile duct strictures will be there, or perforation will be there, or intestinal perforations, and metabolic galactosemia, hereditary fructose intolerance. And others, total parental nutrition and hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism also is very, very important, and it may land in a mental retard. If you early diagnose the hypothyroidism in a newborn, you have to treat as soon as possible. First answer, second is within 15 days of life. Otherwise, a child IQ may be delayed. So don't wait and treat the hypothyroidism. So these are the, then coming to the modalities of the treatment of the hyperbilirubinemia or neonatal jaundice is nothing but we have to reduce the bilirubin level in a serum, and you should not you should prevent the bilirubin toxicity like acute bilirubin encephalopathy or chronic bilirubin encephalopathy, what you call kernicterus. And that mode is early, start early feeding is most important, adequate hydration is important, and start phototherapy. The modalities of the treatment is phototherapy. Second is the exchange transfusion. Third one is some drugs are there. In case of the hemolytic anemias like RHR, ABO incompatibility will start the immunoglobulins. So these are the three modalities for the treatment of the neonatal jaundice. And we have to encourage the feeding also, very, very important. And so that phototherapy, if you see, so phototherapy, there are guidelines are there. According to the American Academy of the Pediatricians, there is risk factors are there. We have to consider the gestational age and birth weight and risk factors. Risk factors again, the birth asphyxia, hypothermia, hypoglycemia, septicemia, and these are the risk factors will be there. We have to consider for the phototherapy at least. If the gestational age is more than 38 weeks and no risk factors, and high risk line more than 38 weeks, some risk factors will be there. And risk factors already I told you, and thermal instability or the hemolytic anemia, G6PD, hypoglycemia, hypothermia, lethargic. So how much wavelength will be there in a phototherapy? That wavelength and usually 460 to 490 nanograms, and the distance between the babies and lights will be from the at least the 30 to 40 centimeters should be there, should not be very close to the baby, otherwise the skin may burn or baby may have death also. So that is the most important when you put on the phototherapy lights, the newborn, very carefully you have to see. And the dose of irradiance of the phototherapy, ideally 30 milli cents per centimeter square. And this the graphic change, mild, moderate, all these according to the AAP guidelines are there. These lines are there, mild and moderate and high risk. And when coming to the preterm babies, we have to think of the gestational age and birth weight is very, very important. If the less than 30,000 grams is there, there is no visible jaundice, the phototherapy. And when the bilirubin level is more than 10 to 12 milligrams is there, you have to go for the DVT. DVT is nothing but double volume exchange transfusion. So the blood volume is 85 ml per kg will be there. Double volume you have to take. That means the double of the blood volume. When you take the 1000 to the 1500 grams and bilirubin is 7 to 9, and if the bilirubin level is more than 12, you go for the exchange transfusion, and 15 to 2000 grams. And when the bilirubin is more than 15, go for the exchange. When it's less than 12, you go for the phototherapy itself. And the 2000 to 205, 500 grams, you go for the more than sorry, and more than 18 is there. So you go for exchange, and less than 18 is there phototherapy itself. Sorry. So this is the graphic changes, the guidelines for the exchange transfusion. Again, mild and moderate and severe will be there. And DVT is nothing but the short form of the double volume exchange transfusions. It's a chart. This is only the chart I am just showing. And now coming to the phototherapy, what is the mechanism, how the bilirubin is excreted, and reduction will be there in a blood. So that the mechanism is nothing But the three mechanisms are there. Most commonest is configurational isomerization, and that will give the end products like soluble, water soluble end products E and Z isomers will be there. And second is the structural isomerization. End product is lumirubin, and the last one is the least photo oxidation, colorless products will be there. So contraindication for phototherapy, contraindication is when the baby is having the bronze baby syndrome is there, we don't put on the phototherapy. When there is a congenital porphyria is there in the family members, don't put on phototherapy itself. When there is a photosensitizers for the drugs are there, don't advise the newborn for phototherapy itself. Then coming to the side effects of the phototherapy, side effects usually because of the lights, they may have the thermal instability, hypo or hyperthermia will be there, or they may go into dehydration because of the insensible water loss will be there, or there is a chances of the diarrhea, loose motions will be there, and there is a transient, flea bitten rash will be there, and corneal injury will be there. We have to close the eyes when you put on the phototherapy newborn, and where the hypoglycemia also very important, and they frequently you have to give the feeding, and breastfeeding is we have to encourage and replace these. The phototherapy lights will be there. Now the phototherapy lights has come, that is the lights are different. I will show the photos, and now we are not using the tube lights, white tube light, green tube lights are like that. LED lights are there now at present. So our aim is early recognition of the neonatal jaundice. Then early treatment is very important to prevent the brain damage and to prevent the cardiac arrest and not to go into the cerebral palsy. So approach to the newborn, always assess the birth weight, gestation, and postnatal age also. And we have to ask when jaundice appears, first day, second day, or third day. Any risk factors are there, hypothermia, hypoglycemia, or septicemia. In mother, is diabetes is there or not? So these are the risk factors. You have to go into detail, and the RH incompatibility or ABO incompatibility or hereditary spherocytosis is there or G6PD is there or not. G6PD is very common in North India, in Punjab and Bihar and Delhi. That is a ethnic group. And when you compare to the South Indians in Madras and the Karnataka and AP, Telangana, we will come across the G6PD is very less. That is it depends on the genetic factors. So the goal is to have to prevent the most important the cardiac arrest and brain damage in the newborn, and not to go into detail about the cerebral palsy. So that is the aim of our treatment of the neonatal jaundice. So thank you one and all.